PlayStation 5 is still quite a long way out, actually. At least that's the opinion of respected games journalist Jason Schreier. What makes him say that, I wonder? Let's find out. Cast your minds back a few weeks ago. A story popped up from a site called Semi-Accurate. Now, they accurately leaked plans for a PS4.1, aka PS4 Pro. That was a few years ago. They predicted that. They leaked the specs for the PS4, Xbox One, and the Switch before they were public knowledge. So they do have a track record. And a couple of weeks ago, they leaked that the PlayStation 5 is pretty much imminent, like it's almost upon us. They said that due to the huge number of dev kits that have been sent out to developers, first party and third party, that it seems very likely that a PlayStation 5 could come out very soon, even this year, even in 2018. And that sparked a huge kind of conversation online about that, didn't it?
Yeah, I think semi-accurate being actually accurate all the time, firstly, quite ironic, but on top of that...
Humble guys, I mean, that's what it is.
It's like a gaming channel calling themselves pretty good.
Exactly.
Not amazing.
Admired where they come from.
Not brilliant, just pretty good. But as for the leaks, common knowledge by now is that dev kits went out in January, or that's what was rumoured to be common knowledge.
Yeah.
So PS5 is on the horizon. Is it this year or not? I'm not sure whether that's accurate based on how well PS4 is doing. If PS4 wasn't doing as well, then they probably might need to upgrade to a PS5. I don't think PS5 is a good business decision right now for Sony.
Absolutely.
Doesn't make sense.
That's where the conversation kind of comes in, I guess, because they first kind of reported this in an article that, by the way, they wanted $1,000 for. If you were going to read it, they just put a little paywall in the way. It just cost you $1,000 if you wanted to see the leaked details that they had hold of. And it was a lot of tech info about the performance and stuff and close integration with the VR. That was one of the big points. But the biggest point was the fact that a large amount of dev kits for the PS5 had been sent out to developers, right? And we could expect the PlayStation 5 potentially 2018. That was their big leak. Well, not so, says Jason Schreier this week, because he's spoken to dozens of sources in the industry across a wide spectrum of development, so first-party developers, third-party developers, just basically trying to speak to everyone he can to get a sense of, does it feel like a PlayStation 5 is coming? And he says no. He says absolutely not, actually. He says it's unlikely that we'll see a PlayStation 5 before 2020. Which is the complete, I mean, that's not what we've been told the last couple of weeks by Semi-Accurate. He says, quote, "There is information about the PlayStation 5 floating around at both first and third party companies, but it's far more limited than it would be if the console's release was imminent." He does admit right at the foot of the article that this is hardware and video games and anything can change. I mean, just ask Microsoft, innit? I mean, stuff changes all the time in console hardware, but he seems to think that absolutely not. There is no PlayStation 5 release imminent, and if anything, it's a few years off. Unlikely we'll see anything before 2020. A USGamer backed up what Schreier is saying. They say, quote, "This tracks with our own conversations with sources around the industry. We've spoken with multiple developers at large publishers who've said they have yet to hear anything or read any white papers. Many seem to feel that 2020 is a reasonable point to expect a generation of consoles." So that's where they're at. And this is a journalist's kind of thing now. So this isn't anyone from within Sony or anyone claiming to have insider information. This is just Jason Schreier doing his job, doing the rounds, speaking to his contacts and trying to get a sense for what's going on. And based on his experience, it seems like there isn't a PlayStation 5 coming anytime before 2020.
Okay, so first things to consider, Exhibit A, he is a respected games journalist, right? So you've got.
Let's get that out of the way.
So Exhibit
he's
B.
He's bloody good, right? We need to emphasise that. He's really good. He's done a good bit of work here.
He's pretty good, Mike. Don't oversell him.
Okay.
He's pretty good. So the second point to note is that based on his intuition, because this is intuition, right? He hasn't got hard facts. He hasn't got anybody to go on record to say anything. This is his intuition as a respected games journalist, based on the amount of information that he is not getting about the PS5. That leads him to conclude that it won't be around for a while. So nobody's talking to him. Nobody's saying anything to him. Maybe he's committed a faux pas. Nobody wants to speak to him now, and maybe that's what.
I think I'm with him here. I think it feels like maybe there are early signs, and just everything from what you were saying earlier, it doesn't feel like we need one yet. It doesn't feel like the right time for Sony to be doing it. Sales are still strong. They're still shifting PlayStation VR for the PS4. They've just kind of announced a huge price reduction of that. The PlayStation 4 Pro, that's not very old. That's still quite a new machine. And the Xbox One X has just come out, which kind of solidifies this generation as being in its at its peak almost. This is like it's flexing now, and that's when we're seeing great games that are pushing the hardware, like Horizon Zero Dawn and so on. So I don't think it's I think it's too early. I think 2020 feels right to me.
Okay. A little. I'm going to throw something in here, right? So imagine, if you will, that going forward, the next generation is fully backwards compatible. Okay, does that make it more feasible then?
Absolutely.
That it might be just around the corner.
I think, and kind of the optimist in me is looking at how great Microsoft are managing backwards compatibility with Xbox One. They've just announced a range of older original Xbox titles that will work on the Xbox One. Not only that, they will be Xbox One X enhanced, and they'll be better. They'll be in 4K. They'll be
Red Dead Redemption in 4K.
I mean, they're just knocking it out of the park with that. Really, they're doing a great job. So I really hope that philosophy sinks in with Sony, and that Microsoft keep it going in the next gen as well, and that when these new consoles arrive, which obviously they will do at some point, that they will all be hugely backwards compatible with your PlayStation 4 library, with your Xbox One library. That those digital games that you've got will carry over, because once you buy that, it holds no value anymore because it's on your system. There's nothing you can do about it. Whereas when it's a physical thing, you can sell it on. And if your collection of games doesn't work on your newer console, it doesn't matter. Just sell them and buy some new games with it if that's what you want to do. But you haven't got that option with a digital library. What do you want to see happen? Do you want to see a PlayStation this year? Or would you like to wait for a better machine in 2020?
Well, the PS4 Pro was only last year.
Exactly.
It
was the end of 2016, wasn't it? It was right at the end of 2016.
Okay, so that's not really that old. What I would want is a PS5, yes, fully backwards compatible, which would fit in with they've got a market lead right at the moment. They've got just a huge market lead over Xbox and Microsoft at the moment. They don't want to lose that. They want to harness that. They want to keep hold of that, right? And they want to push the VR thing. We know that from that event that they had recently where they were just like fully on VR mode.
That's it, yeah. They're kind of announcement conferences and stuff. They've been really going heavy on the VR reveals and announcements.
So that's another unique selling point for them, that they want to harness and take through to the next generation. So with all that said, if they were to release it soon, the PS4, the PS5, it has to be backwards compatible. Otherwise, they're losing that market share. They're losing all that market lead that they've built up. They're starting from scratch. Why would they want to do that? They wouldn't want to do that. So if it is soon, it has to be backwards compatible. If it's later down the line, again, I'd say it has to be backwards compatible for business reasons, because they don't want to lose that market share.
It's a big install base, isn't it? They've got so many millions of people hooked up to that, and they're on board with the PlayStation 4 now. So to take that away from them and make that redundant so soon. I guess it's you would look at previous generations and consoles came around a lot quicker, but because you subscribe to things now and you buy things digitally and you don't have the physical copy, and things are changing. And I think that's one of the fact that we've got a PS4 Pro and an Xbox One X shows that things are definitely shifting in the console marketplace. And I think PlayStation 5 is a very big decision. And a 2018 release for that would surprise me. I really would be surprised.
It would be surprising.
Even next year as well.
I think that Sony don't know themselves. And I read recently Michael Pachter, who is an industry analyst. His thoughts on the situation are that Sony has got loose plans for unveiling the PS5. They're not going to say exactly when it's going to come out. They're not making any decisions, but they're going to see how it goes in the next couple of years.
They're still deciding those decisions. That's right. They're still working on it, aren't they?
Because he reckons because they're selling so many PS4s, so they're still flying off the shelves. They're getting more and more sales. Their install base is higher than it's ever been. As soon as that growth slows down, that's when they want to kick in the PS5 generation. But until then, they're just going to wait and see. So while it's doing well, they don't have to make any sort of decisions. They can just put the feelers out with dev kits and get people kind of thinking about the specs and thinking about the next generation. But then when something like if Microsoft come up with their next generation console, that's when Sony will have to kick in and say, oh, well, hang on, we've got another console. Because it's in Microsoft's interest to get the next generation sooner rather than later, because the market deficit, essentially.
Of course, in terms of performance, they're going to have to target, whenever the next generation does arrive, they're going to have to target 4K as an absolute baseline, and it's got to be a really good 4K system, HDR and 4K Blu-ray as well. You know, it's got to have these. If they're pushing the technology, nudging it forward with the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, they've got to just completely, because the Xbox One X has fully embraced it and it is absolutely a 4K machine. Which you can't say that the same is true for a PS4 Pro. They need to, you know, that is like the baseline for performance and stuff. And I think just seeing the specs is going to be really interesting, and how they manage to balance the extreme pushing things forward while keeping the cost down, you know, without treading into like PC gaming territory for cost. So there you go. Jason Schreier doesn't think there'll be a PlayStation 5 before 2020 because of the dozens of sources that he's spoken to. And semi-accurate, that flies in the face of what Semi-Accurate reported a couple of weeks ago, that there is going to be a PlayStation 5 as early as this year. What do you guys think? What are your predictions? What do you want to see? Let us know down in the comments. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this every single day. There should be another video on your screens right now if you want to watch that, and a link to Patreon if you want to support the channel. We'll see you next time.